Hey guys, it's Gigi from Go Go Glam. I'm going to walk you through how to do a deluxe garland using just 260 twister balloons, these little stretchy guys. This is one of my favorite ways of putting things together. It goes really quick. Today I'm going to be using Tuftex, Sempertex, and Qualatex balloons. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Step one is going to be to inflate and pair off our 17-inch balloons with our 11-inch balloons. So I'm going to do one of every color. And then what I like to do is I like to lay my balloons out. I have 5 colors today. I want to make sure I know what order I want to put them in. It just kind of helps give you a visual and an idea of where you're going. You also may end up with oddball balloons where you have one balloon that doesn't have a pair. What do I do with that? We're going to kind of get into how you transition that later in the video. But if you know which order you're going to assemble your garland in, it's helpful to work these into the garland a little bit easier. I'm going to do this pair here. That is just a bit too big. You can see it getting really kind of oblong shape, so I let a little air out, I push into it, make it round, like that, and then I'm going to crisscross the next. And I have an entire video with some tricks on how to tie balloons just to make it easier to show you guys how I do it. I'll try to overlay that here so you can just see a little closer. But I always crisscross the next. I do this because the air will not get out then. It's mostly just to make it easier for me to tie. And then I'm only going to tie the insides. I don't need to tie the outside next. That's going to hurt your fingers really bad. Let's do that. And you can see these are still a little oblong just to get kind of a nice size out of them, but just don't go past 15 inches this way, just about. And the single layered ones they will take a little more air, and they will actually be just a little bit bigger because they're squishier. It's just the way they are. The double layered ones are stiffer, which is kind of why I like to combine the two again. They sort of meld together really well. So same process, just gonna crisscross the necks, twist them around each other like that, tie them off. That one maybe got a little big, not too bad. And again, you're just kind of pushing into it like so to make it as round as you can. And again, you'll probably be able to get the single layered ones just a little bigger than the double layered ones. If you push the double layered balloons too big and you're going to have them outside, or if you're going to move them around, they are more likely to have the outside balloon pop if they are way over inflated. So be really careful as far as that goes. So that, way too big. But you still should be able to get it to a nice size. Whoops. Like that. Again, same thing with inflating my 11s. This actually isn't too bad, but I'm going to squish them so that they're round. See? Like that. A little different with my doubles. And I'm lucky enough to have a machine that can handle inflating the doubles without any coaxing. If you're struggling with this part and you're really struggling to get your doubles inflated, I'm going to link the video below. It's got a lot of different methods for getting them inflated. And if you are just doing this you're either starting out as a balloon decorator or you're doing it at home, if you have a tool air compressor, that's actually going to be your best friend for this. And if you don't, there are other ways of inflating your balloons, and you can just check that video out. Way too big for a garland. This is good for if you're going to float them with bouquets and a helium. With helium, we don't use helium for garlands, so it's not necessary. So I'm just going to let some air out. Make them nice and round. So I don't have to go super small on this step necessarily, but I also don't want them to be, fully inflated. I think this is about 10 inches, honestly, if I were to measure it. Now that I have all my balloons inflated, I've decided on my color pattern. I'm going to color block today, so I'm going to do chunks of color, repeating. This is a mixed pattern, so if you want all of your colors intermixed with each other, you would just pair them differently at the beginning. So if you are doing a color mix, just make sure that you're consistently doing like all of your pairs are going to be the orange and green, and all of your pairs are dark green and blue. It just makes the pattern come together more consistently. So that's a little trick for that. If you have an odd number, you might just take one of them and pair it with itself and then just work that in, or just make sure that you have sort of a consistent number of like pairs. It's just gonna make the whole thing look a little bit nicer in the end. So we are ready to start building. We're gonna use 260 twisters today. These are balloon animal balloons if you have never used these before. 260 is the size, twister is just the style of balloon, and I'm using clear today. You can use white. If you have dark colors, I suggest using black. Generally, you're not going to see it once everything is hanging, but sometimes it's nice to kind of match to the colors that you have if you have to buy them anyway, which is why I like keeping white, black, and clear on hand, because they tend to be the most versatile as far as all colors are concerned. So step one, I'm gonna grab my first color. Start with Latte. So I'm just gonna take this, tie it around, and I am gonna knot this. So I'm gonna go once and twice. So just basic knot in your tennis shoes. Basic knot, that's it. Easy peasy. So last time we're gonna tie that for a minute. So my pattern is gonna be a set of 17, and then I'm gonna do a set of 11s, set of 17, 11s, super easy. I'm gonna run that along the bottom here so you guys can just follow that. If you have to deviate or you want to deviate where you want to cluster them differently, go crazy. This is your creative license to do whatever you want. This just kind of gets the sizes evenly spread. So I'm gonna crisscross the necks, and then I'm just gonna do a figure 8. So this is starting on this side, back around, like so. Then burnt orange, and I like to just use like a hand, like, and I'll try to get in close on that so you can see, because I like to take the necks, just have them be close together. You don't need them to be like touching necessarily. The tighter that you do it, the shorter the garland will be. The looser that you do it, the more kind of gaps you're gonna have. So you just have to get comfortable with the look that you want, playing around. So again, I'm just gonna stretch this out, wrap it, figure 8 like that. And then, so this one is I'm just kind of setting in here, pulling these like that. Around. Okay, we're going to talk about two things now. We're going to talk about transitioning between oddball colors, and we're going to talk about transitioning to your next 260. So this is getting kind of short. I could probably fit one more set on here. In fact, I'll just put these on here. So wrap that around, and then I'm going to take this and just tie it to a neck nearby, inside neck only if it's a double. Just grab your stretchiest one and just tie it normal. Just tie it like a balloon. I do tie these twice. It's the only place that I'm going to tie twice is my 260, just because it's the thing that's holding everything together, and I don't know. I just give it that extra tie down. Then all you need to do here is the same thing that we did at the very beginning. Take this, tie it to your last set that you did. And then you start your pattern over. Now, let's just say for the sake of this video that I got to a point where I had one burnt orange left, and then I had one dusk blue. So I have two oddballs. What do I do with them? If I'm at a transition spot between the colors, all I have to do is tie these two together, pair them up. Like that. So because this is a spot where this color leads into this color, once this goes into the garland, you really can't tell. you're not going to be able to see. So you have no idea, once that's together, that ever even happened, like that. So don't worry too much about that. Let's just say you have an oddball and it does not have a match with its transition color. You can set it aside to the end, blow it up, tie it into the garland. You could also take it and tie it into a pair, make that a triplet, and then just work your triplet in. That way it'll just be a little bit fuller in that spot. I like to save them for the end because then I can hang it up and be like, there's a little spot here. I can select where I want to put it, and it does help give a little fullness at the end of the garland. Okay, just for fun and just to show you guys kind of some variations that you can do with this, I'm going to change my pattern at the bottom, and I'm going to sacrifice length of garland for having a little bit more of a full bottom. So this garland will end up being, I think, 10 to 12 feet. I'm going to hang it so it swags across, comes down, touches the floor, and then I'm going to fill out the sides of it using my 11-inch balloons. So just to kind of show you guys some different ways where, you know, if you get it to a certain length and you're like, okay, it's at the length I want and I want to have a little more fullness, this is a really easy way of doing this. So I'm going to stop adding 11-inch balloons. I'm just going to do 16-inch balloons through here. I'm going to use the rest of my 16s. I've got a bunch of 16s around the bottom. I'm going to hang this up. We're going to talk about how to take our spare 11s that we left out and add them into the garland, and then we're going to just talk quick about how to throw your 5-inch balloons on as well. So at the end of my garland, I want to tie this off. I don't want to leave this loose, just because you don't want things to unravel. So wrap it around, grab a tail, tie it in a knot. Like so. And then once my garland is hanging, I start rearranging. You know, I want to make sure that my 16s are pulled forward and I can really see them. You know, you don't want them hidden around the back, because that's how it looks nice and full, keeping them forward. And then around the bottom, obviously, it's much fuller, just with the 16s right there. And then we're going to take some of our extra balloons and just kind of fill them in along here. This one ended up being just over 12 feet actually, so it wasn't really in the 10 to the 12 feet range. I took 8 pairs of these, so at the end you have 8 sets of 16s that are just wrapped one after the other, and then I kept their little pairs, and we're going to just start adding those on after. I can use the rubber bands. I can just tie the tails into certain spots. If you're good at tying balloons, if that really hurts your fingers, that's probably not going to be your favorite method. Or you can take a third of a 260 twister, just cut 1/3 of it, and tie it around and create a little anchor point to tie that in. You can use string as well. So, you know, I can add it up here if I want that to be thicker. I can add it out here. I could also kind of put it in little like spots in here, just to create a little more like variation, in pattern. Like the other thing that I can do is I have a pair and a pair, so I can make a cluster, make a 4-pack, fit that in there. You get that kind of nice little pop, you get that extra fullness. So I'm gonna work with the bottom for this one. I'm gonna work adding a little bit more around the bottom just to make this fuller and kind of leave the top as it is. I'm gonna find my stretchiest tail. You know, sometimes some are shorter, some are longer, so find the one that stretches the most. Same thing, I'm gonna come in here. That one's pretty good, stretches out. And I'm just gonna tie these together. And I'm just gonna tie them once. I'm not gonna, just one time, that's it. Just once, boom, that's it. So if you follow our video on some balloon tying techniques, this might be okay for you. It just helps save your fingers. I don't like to wrap the balloon like right up next to my fingers. It hurts. So check that video out as well. And then the next one I'm going to use 260 to show you how that looks. So I'm just going to take my 260 twister. This is about 1/3 of one. I just cut a little end off of it. Same as how we started the garland. Just tie it in. Oops. Just tie it in. So now you just have like this. And you can figure eight it or you can tie it. It's kind of up to you. Kind of want it in here, and I want it to be pulled tight to the garland, so instead of attaching it to this, which I could, I'm going to come in here. Here's the vein. I also have I just have that random thing in there. I could tie it to that. Sometimes you'll find a piece of your old 260. I can tie it to a tail, or I can just, this is sometimes the easiest for people. Here, let me get it in there so you can see. Just wrap it around like that. And then just tie it like that. You only have to tie that one once. And then it's just kind of tucked in there. And you can kind of, and you know, you could tie these together if you want, or you know, there's a little bit of, you can start rearranging and moving things. See, this will start to fill out through here. So just keep coming down like this. And I'm always rearranging as I'm doing this, just to make sure everything looks kind of how I want it to, stepping back and looking at things, and then figuring out where I want to put my last couple of sets of balloons. I'm going to do one of these guys with a set of rubber bands, just so you can see how that looks. I don't do that very often because that ends up making these feel a little bit loose, but sometimes for pairs it works really nice, so I'm still going to show you how to do that. So I am going to take, I have 2 different colored sets, but I kind of want to have this to be fuller, so I'm going to put that in here, just kind of fill that in. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to take my rubber band, I'm going to put it around my green one. This is kind of how we're going to do our 5-inch balloons. And then I'm going to pop it around this, and then it's just going to kind of exist out here. So again, one of the reasons I don't love to use the rubber bands is because then there's just kind of like flopping, just sort of like woo, out there. But I can kind of arrange, and then I'll be able to sort of tack this in over here. So sometimes it's just to like get it where you want it to be, and then you can tie it in a little bit more secure. It's just good for placement. And then again, the final way that I can do this, I have extra 260 twister. I can just take that, wrap it into my end, and then I'm also gonna just pull it into this. So just kind of getting creative. I'm gonna sort of back wrap these. That way it kind of pulls everything in together. So you end up with kind of this, everything sort of, and again, just rearranging until it looks exactly kind of how you want it. Always trying to get the 16s towards the front. The nice thing with this is if something isn't looking how you want it to, you can clip it out and move it around. That's sort of the beauty of not using glue dots for this part, because you don't get stuck, literally. All right, so we have our garland hung, we have it arranged. Now we're gonna start adding our 5-inch balloons. I'm gonna just walk you through quick how I inflate those and pair them together. I would not wait until the day of your party to inflate your 5-inch balloons, because for some reason it just seems to be the most time-consuming and tedious step. So inflate them and pair them all off. Don't add them until it's hanging. Just gonna make it easier to arrange everything. Again, really important on the little ones, tiny little fists. Don't inflate them super big. They start to not fit together very well, and they look a little funny when they're too big. So I'm gonna do a pair, and then so I like to do clusters of 3 or clusters of 4. 4 is if you have an extra 5-inch and you're in a hurry. I feel like if you do them in sets of 3, you're going to see them a little bit more readily. Sets of 4 kind of end up tucking in. I do them that way if I'm putting, you know, like 100 on a build or something. But when you're doing it like this, you're going to get a little more visibility if you do them in sets of 3, because you'll see them a little more. Because if this was a 4, one's going to just tuck to the back and one's going to stick forward. So also it depends on timing. If you're running out of time, do 4, it's quicker. If you are using 5-inch double stuffs and you do not have a professional balloon inflator, it means like a Cool Air Pro, one of the pro grade ones, you're not going to be able to inflate them with a machine, so don't count on that. Make sure you have a hand pump and make sure it's a dual action hand pump. We've had some people have some trouble inflating double stuff balloons with hand pumps from, I think, Target and I can't remember where else, but they're not dual action, so they don't push enough air into them. So if you're struggling, that is probably what's going on. Again, check out our how to inflate your balloons just to kind of walk you through doing that. So this is borderline too big in my opinion. I just personally don't like them to be that like long. That's a personal preference. I like them to be more squat and round. You definitely do not want them to look like this. Case in point. Case in point. Your balloon should never be inflated that full. We've seen it, and that's just way too full. That is way too full. You know. So nice and round, especially on the 5-inch ones. I'm going to show you quick how to add these with rubber bands. If you're following along and you don't have a kit of ours, I'm going to link these in the description. So if you're ever wondering how many balloons we use, which balloons we use, what kind of materials, all that stuff is going to be in the description of the video. So check that out. You'll have all the links for the stuff that you need. So I'm just going to take this, wrap it on to my set like so, and then I'm going to come up here, wrap it around like that. Easy peasy, fastest way to do it. So what I like to do, I would inflate all of your balloons, take your rubber bands, put them over the top, set them aside. Do all of this the day before your party. Don't do it the day of your party. It will make you stressed and sad. So do that. Then all you have to do is grab them, throw them on. This step will go super fast. Boom, like that. Again, I like to add them after because then I know exactly where they need to be. I know exactly where I want to fill in. I don't have to guess. So always hang your garland up and then add your 5s. If you're transporting this somewhere, you can take your 5-inch balloons and put them in a big black like garbage bag, like a super-sized garbage bag. Okay, we are all done. We've added all of our 5-inch balloons. We've got 46 of them on here, so you might have a few more of that if you've got a kit from us. Some people get to this step and they put less than that on because they're sort of tired. But just remember putting them in sets of 3s is going to make it go faster, and it really does help to fill it out. If you like a lot of 5-inch balloons, you can always add more. You can do little chains, kind of filling in the sides. But this is sort of the perfect amount to just fill in all the gaps as needed without it being overkill. And just depending on how much time you want to spend inflating balloons, because that's what's going to take the longest. I hope this video helped answer questions you guys have about kind of this style of build. If you do have any more, make sure you comment below. We always check those to see what kind of things you guys are looking to learn. Make sure and check the description. It has all of our vital information as far as brands and how many balloons, supplies that you need, all that good stuff. And then make sure and subscribe to our channel and keep checking back for all kinds of different balloon tips and tricks and techniques.